All right, we'll get started in 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Does anyone have any questions while we're waiting? Well, that's pretty easy. All right. I am in a different room tonight and the video is not working here. So no video tonight, but audio is working fine. All right. Let's see if we've got Crystal coming on yet. All right, we'll see if Crystal comes on. Okay, sounds good, Jay. All right. Okay, quick review of what we did last week, right? We're already in week 8, and really there's only 3 more weeks of lecture after this, and then we have our final exam. So almost there, right? Almost to the end of the semester. So last week we talked about our market segmentation, that STP, right? So segmentation, targeting, positioning. And again, we had dealt with some of the terms and concepts of segmentation before when we looked at that external environment. So segmentation is just taking that whole big thing we call a market, right? The market is out there, and we just kind of put it into groups by identifying similar traits of some type. And those similarities can be demographic. What is some example of demographic groups that we might use? What might be some example of demographic groups, segments that we would look at, just in general? Yes, age, right? So baby boomers is part of that age. The baby boomers are what's called a generational cohort that we use. So yeah, gender, income, Geography, right? Is it north, south, west, east? Is it urban? Is it rural? Right? Those are concepts that we can use. Suburban, that we put into groups, right? So all of those are fairly easily found. Demographics is the easiest in terms of getting data. We can look at census data to know age and income, household income, ethnicity. All of that information is usually pretty typically found. Psychographic segmentation is those attitudes, beliefs. So that's a little more not as defined, right? Because we have beliefs that change, we have attitudes that change, right? So if we look at some of the big trends that we can say just in general, some of the trends that have occurred in terms of beliefs, what might be some examples of a psychographic trend that's occurring? You're not quite sure. I mean, think of like what your grandparents thought of as important and part of their everyday life, and then kind of take a look and think of, oh, like what do, if you're younger, what do myself, or if you've got kids, what do my kids think is important? How are some of the thought processes or the value that they place on things? How has it changed? Ideas about the workforce. Yeah, that's a great example, right? So how has the workforce changed in terms of attitudes, beliefs, thought process? I got you, Nicole, and I got you, Crystal. Yeah, yeah. The younger, and now if you're younger, right? If you're here and you're maybe younger, you know, do you necessarily feel that you're entitled, or do you feel that maybe work isn't the most important thing in the world, right? That type of concept. Yeah, so we do, and that's why we have generational differences too in terms of, that's why we have generational cohorts, because we found that when we take a look at this big thing called the population, um, when you're born at a certain time and experience certain events that occur, that shapes your thoughts, your process, you know, how you view things. So I wouldn't expect someone who's 50 to have the same thought process as someone who's 20, because they've experienced different things, different thoughts. So there is going to be differences in terms of, yeah, company beliefs, work-life balance, right? Even just things like, we can take a look at the pet industry, right? And Angel, I think this was in your homework, right? Where you talked about, in terms of looking at chapter 10, where it's like, you know, should Bath and Body Works develop a pet line kind of concept? Yeah. So, you know, if you went to your grandparents and said, yeah, you know, this is my dog or my cat, and it's part of my family, right? Right? They would be like, yeah, most would be like, yeah, I'm not quite so sure about that, right? Pets were pets. In today's world, pets are viewed as family, right? It's a different shift, right? Yeah, pets were outside, not inside, right? There's no way my grandparents would have bought rain jackets for their dogs. I have rain jackets for my dogs. Part of it is selfish, because if we go out walking in the rain, I don't want to have to take the time to, you know, give them a whole bath, right? Or Halloween costumes, yeah. So those, you know, so there's shifts, there are trends that we're seeing in the external environment. However, it's based on different attitudes and beliefs. And then, I mean, we can go back even further, right? You know, so why do people treat pets as family? Well, the family concept has shifted in the last 40, 50 years as well. So, I mean, there's reasons why it occurs. So, yeah. when I teach 790, so 790 is a capstone class in the MBA program, right? So it's corporate strategy, and it's kind of this, like I said, you got 80% in, you're getting ready to graduate with your MBA, and so it's kind of a marketing class, strategy class, a little bit of finance in there, so it's a big picture look. And I love teaching 790 because the last 2 weeks, actually the last 3 weeks, we do like an analysis, and that's one of the trends that I bring out. We do it for Petco. So we kind of take Petco and bring it out over a couple of weeks, and we kind of analyze what's going on in the external environment, just like we do in marketing, and then internally, and do a SWOT, and kind of come up with this big corporate strategy for them, kind of walk through those steps. And as part of that, the last 2 weeks, I have people send me pictures of their pets, and then I post them as kind of like a, when we come into class, it's just, I've got their pets up there, that kind of, everyone gets to see their pets. And so I think one of like the biggest ones, Josie had like, I don't know, something kind of like Caroline, 6 cats, 2 lizards. She might have had a dog too, and then she's like, I'm gonna stop at the chickens because that's a little too much. So yeah, so kind of like Caroline, yeah, big pet family, right down to the chickens. So we view things differently based on a lot of reasons that, again, we won't go into. But we've got our segmentation. The whole point's getting into those similar groups, and then we target. We figure out which of those groups best match what we are offering, or vice versa. So somehow there's a connection there. And a lot of times we find that connection by using that SWOT information, right? So what opportunities are out there? What strengths do we have? And we match those potential opportunities to our strengths. So we take a look at that big picture, and then positioning is how we communicate. How do we take what we're offering, our value, and present it to that target market? What's the best way to do that, to get that connection, so therefore they become a customer? Chapter 10, we're going to revisit a little bit again today when we look at new products. So the same concept of new product and how we bring a new product to market is 5 steps, but it's really the same progression mind-wise that we do for our market research. So we're going to revisit that again. Not a tremendously long lecture today, so we have plenty of time. We're going to do a little bit of group work, so you'll have time to kind of use that creative thought process a little more so today than last week. So let's take a look at products, right? So products is one of our 4 Ps, and when you hear terms like product mix, product line, I want to make sure that you guys know what that is. So product mix, when you hear product mix, it is everything that's offered by the company, right? The total amount of products offered. Product line is, there's a similarity. So this is Procter & Gamble. So if we went to Procter & Gamble's website, we would see these are what we call business units. Strategic business units, they call them sector business units, SBUs. So they take these product lines and kind of group them. So in this case, like where my little arrow is, fabric is a product line, and it's put together with home care. And for them, this is a corporate strategy decision on how all of these products go together, right? So they have said, you know what, there's enough alignment between these that we're going to put them into one business unit. There's enough similarities in the target market and what they're offering, right? So that being said, like healthcare and grooming are all on their own because they've got enough going on, and they're different enough in terms of that product. So fabric is a product line of closely related items. So if we were to look at all of the brands that are in the fabric product line of Procter & Gamble, we'd see things like Tide, Gain, Draft, Bounce, Downy, and many, many more, right? There's more than dozens when we look at globally what Procter & Gamble offers in that fabric line. So if I were to ask you, do you think there's a lot of competitors in the fabric care segment? What would you say? Do you think fabric is a highly competitive product? Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it is. Right. All you need to do is go to the grocery store and say, okay, what are all my choices in terms of, let's just use laundry detergent, right? So what are some of the laundry detergent brands that are out there besides Tide, Gain, or Draft, right? So we've got Tide, Gain, Draft. What are some other ones? Ecos, All, yeah. It's funny that all three of you thought of that one at the same time, got that at the same time. Purex, perfect. Yep, Draft. So let me ask you this, what target market is Draft trying to get to? Well, what target market is Draft? Yeah, it's specifically made for that, for babies, little kids, right? So made for, when, babies and their sensitive skin. So very, very defined target market is Draft, right? So with a lot of intense competition, how does Procter & Gamble compete, right? How can all of these brands sustain business in the same competitive product category, right? So we do it by what we call differentiating and positioning, right? So when we look at product differentiation, it's just what it sounds like, creating differences. How is Tide different than Unilever's Persil? Have you ever heard of Persil? Persil? If you haven't, you can quick look it up and get a visual of it. Let's see if I can quick bring it up. Right. So it's kind of got that bluish look with the red cap. Yeah, so you might want to open up a tab because, if you're not familiar with some of the things we're talking about, one of the nice things about being at home and on a computer is you can quick look it up. Is that you, Jade? Are you anonymous caller number 1?
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You're good to go?
Yes.
Okay. So, I won't expect you to write anything on the board or anything like that since you're on the phone. All right. Well, glad that we got that technical issue out of the way. Right. So, product differentiation, right? And there's many, many ways that we can differentiate, and we're going to go into more detail of that. Again, so we have how we're making our product different from the competition, right? And that, again, that goes hand in hand with that value offering. What are we offering of value? If everyone's offering the same value, then there's no differentiation. And when there's something that isn't differentiated, what we call that is commoditization, right? So if we are in a highly commoditized market, that means the only thing that differentiates you from the competition is price. And that is a very difficult road in the long term. So that's why in marketing, we're constantly looking for that value offering, for that differentiation point, because then, although price is important, that is not the only method of differentiating. So we differentiate and then we position, right? What kind of mental image, what are we trying to tell that target market about what we're offering them and that value that we're giving them? Kind of like psychographic, right? When we come into differentiation strategies, a lot of it's based on customer perception, right? So we have that perceptual map right? So with a perceptual map, right, it is based on perception. In the discussion board this week, right, they did one as we did last week as well in class. They had that in the discussion board, and one of the students was like, I made a comment about how you can see that it's the same data and every student has something different in terms of how they say, in terms of high quality and low price, and high price and low quality, and in terms of brands. So my point was, a lot of it is perception, because, we're not involved in that industry and we don't have hard facts to back us up. And so the student was like, yeah, I was going to say that. Like, really, what does this mean? What value does it provide? Because it's just what everyone thinks. And that is the market, right? I mean, just as I said, our values, our attitudes change, and we have to be aware of that and watch our trends. So yes, we have to be on our game in terms of watching how customer perceptions are shifting. And we do that with marketing data, and outside resources a lot of times will help us with that as well. So branding is one of the ways that we differentiate, and we actually talk about that as being the most important way that we differentiate. But we also go by features and customer support, and we're going to go into more detail in those in just a little bit. So product descriptors are advantages, benefits. How are they, in this case it would be formula. How is the formula of Tide different than the formula of Gain? So how is Gain different than Tide? They're both Procter & Gamble. If you had to say, what is the product difference or the value difference? Pricing, a little bit. Yeah, the big thing is Gain defines itself by scent, right? So, and how we know that is we can look at what they're communicating, right? So this is an example of some communication, right? So the verbiage that they're using, right, relates to scent, right? It actually uses enjoy the scent. So now this is an example of how they've diversified out their product line, which we'll get into. They started out as just laundry detergent, right? So here's our laundry detergents. Here's where they started. And now it's gone off to many, many different products as well. Okay. Do you think their packaging helps to put into the mind of the consumer the concept of having a longer lasting smell, longer lasting scent, by the way that the packaging looks? Can you define why? Why do you think that's the case? So we can walk through it as by the color, right? Do you think if this was, instead of the color green, if they had a white color, do you think it would have as much, do you think it would be like, okay, would it mean the same to you? Yeah, like a white bottle. Yeah, it would be, yeah, so, I mean, it comes down to just things like that, like what color are we gonna make it? Right? Because once you make it a color, it's there. Yes, so you're right, free and clear are normally white. Why do you think they're white, Heather? Why do you think it makes sense to do free and clear, white or clear? What is free and clear? Yeah, it's clear chemicals, it's free of chemicals. So they're in that case, they're trying to portray plain or, muted, right? Yeah. So, very florally, right? And there's different scents. This, I think, gosh, Yeah, and that's a good point, that maybe, and so I don't, maybe it's, actually, do you see many laundry detergents with a white bottle? Dreft is the only one that I see with a white bottle. No, I wonder if there's a manufacturing reason why. Do any of you guys know on it? Is there a manufacturing reason that it's hard to make white plastic? No, because bleach comes in white plastic, right? Bleach is always in white. Yeah, so that would be interesting. Yes, so you've got your, so I mean, compared to Tide, Tide very straightforward, right? In terms of what they're offering, Tide is always, the regular Tide's always in orange. So again, kind of communicating that point. So this is an example of how we bring that, that packaging component into, into our branding. Okay. So when we look at branding, right, we can also differentiate by things other than just the product, right? It can be by what we call customer support. It can be by an overall impression. So like, for example, heating and cooling companies, right? There's many, many heating and cooling companies that are around. And part of the differentiation component to that is, customer support, right? Or the fact you can reach us 24 hours, 7. Some of them are. So the fact that you can get a furnace from them, you can get a furnace everywhere, but they're differentiating on the service component. Can you think of another example of companies that maybe differentiate on customer service or after service versus just the product?
Car dealerships.
Yes, I was actually thinking of that exact same thing. But yeah, like when you went to buy a vehicle, right? I mean, you can actually buy the same vehicle at many dealerships, but a lot of times you might go there because of the service you have received or are receiving. So that's a customer support component, which then brings us back. I mean, so when you think back to like what we were talking about with Ford before, how important those dealerships are as part of Ford overall as a company, right? So, they've got to make sure that they keep those relationships. Yes, a great example, Caroline. Warranties, guarantees are helpful in terms of differentiating. So you might, I actually was just in the market for like a commercial glass door refrigerator. It's called a merchandiser that, like, that you might see in like gas stations and things like that, where you open it and you get all the cans good. Well, I was in the market for one, and warranty was one of the, warranty and shipping was one of the main factors that I was using to look at in terms of purchase decision. So let's take a look at branding again. What's the slogan here? What's the slogan for that brand? Yeah, it's been around forever, right? Been around forever. Have you guys like heard the story of Colonel Sanders and how he got started? You guys ever heard the story of Colonel Sanders? Okay, I'll try to. Okay, I might be off slightly on it, but the big picture concept is here. It's like Colonel Sanders, right, a long time ago. Think of like Little House on the Prairie kind of the time frame, right? So was, he was having problems. I don't know if he lost his job, whatever, but anyway, he decided he was going to start his own business. It was later in life. He wasn't super young when he did this. It was later in life. And the one thing that he had was a really good chicken, a family chicken recipe, right? So he decided that's what he's going to do. So he went around town to town to town. I mean, literally, like a salesperson went town to town and tried to sell his chicken recipe. And he tried and tried and tried and tried and tried. And it was just turned around, no, 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 like 100 times. And then finally, he got someone to buy his chicken recipe. And then, then it went from there. So kind of the moral of the story is a persistence. He was very persistent in his view that he was going to start his own business. So, it might have been 200 times, it might have been 500. It was a long time. I do know. The persistence was incredible in terms of getting that business started. Do you guys know what this one is? What's that logo? What's that logo? Maybe I'll take my annotation down. Yeah, Heinz. Sean, Angela, you got it right. Yeah. Heinz ketchup. What about this one? Yeah, there we go. Let's go places. Yeah. Now we will find that slogans change, right? As things evolve. What about this one? Allstate. Yeah. Now let me ask you this: when you saw that, and maybe Allstate didn't even come into your mind, did you get a picture of a person, their spokesperson? Or did you get a visual of hands? Oh, the mayhem. Oh, you're right. The voice. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah, they've been around forever too, right? Yeah. So just those few words brought in a name, brought in a picture of maybe a person or a voice or a visual, right? Breakfast of Champions. That's the product. Wheaties cereal. Have any of you seen Wheaties in the store lately? I had not seen it for probably the last 10 years. It was still available online, but in our product area, I just never saw it. I went into Meijer in Manitowoc last week, and they had an end cap filled with Wheaties cereal, and I cannot remember who was on the box. Darn it. I should have bought it just to use it as a visual. Yeah, I could not believe it. It was the actual Wheaties. It was still the orange box. And I was like taken aback because I'm like, wow, are they reintroducing it? Are they doing a marketing push? Are they repositioning? So yeah, I was never a big Wheaties person either. What was your favorite cereal when you guys were a kid? What was your favorite cereal when you guys were a kid? Did you guys eat cereal as a kid? Maybe you didn't eat cereal.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch was my go-to.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I'm with you, Angela. Cocoa Krispies were my thing. Because the milk was so good, like when you were done. Yeah, I'm like, so, yeah. I do eat the keto cinnamon toast with heavy cream sometimes. I'm honest here. Yeah, so, yeah, that's interesting. Anyway, it's just interesting to know. Yeah. Yeah, like whoever ate those big shredded wheat things. Do you know anyone who ever ate? Remember those huge? They were like 2 inches by 3 inches, and you had to, do you still eat them now? Can you even get that?
Only as
Can you even get
punishment.
shredded? Oh, say that again?
Only as punishment did we have to eat those.
Only as punishment, yeah. Maybe you put frosting on them, like get out the chocolate frosting. Yeah, that's so funny.
They felt like they were scraping the back of my throat.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Oh, yeah, like those, really don't want to communicate that product attribute, right? Oh, yeah, swallow them and, clear out your intestines or something. Yeah, so. Oh, last one, we're ending on a good, it's kind of food related today, right? What's our last symbol? Pringles, right? Pringles. So what this is, it's kind of, again, a little visual to what we call branding strategy. Branding strategy involves 2 components, a name and a mark. So when we think of name, think of anything spoken. So Heinz, right, is a name. Pringles is a name, right? Now Pringles has the brand name and the brand mark all in one, right? We've got the Pringles, the name, in, like if we took out the Pringles and just left that guy there, you would still know it's Pringles, right? So it's got that brand mark, that symbol, that figure. So brand name, brand mark. So there's a big deal. Yeah, there's a big deal that goes into branding, because once it's out there, it's in people's minds, right? I mean, you knew Wheaties, even though it hasn't been a very popular type of item, really for quite some time. Y'all knew Heinz, right? Heinz versus, here's just an example, Heinz and Hunt's, right? A lot of similarities, kind of, right? Typically, we don't want to be quite so similar. Why would we not want to have a similar type symbol and packaging to our competitors, right? We've got Heinz and Hunt's here. Why would we typically try to design not so similarly? Legality, yeah, that's a great point, right? Because we do have trademarks, that's part of brand value, is our trademark component. Yeah, so yeah, you're right, it's just too confusing. Part of the benefit of branding strategy is the fact that customers can recognize it in an offering of many, many items, the ability to set yourself apart, to differentiate. And if we're too similar, right, then we lose that advantage. So when we're looking at branding, right, and we see branding around us everywhere, right, and branding's kind of been the hot topic for the last 10 years for marketing as well. Different types of brands. We have what's called a corporate branding. So Procter & Gamble is a corporate brand, right? It is P&G. There's their logo name, right? Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble within its corporate brand has all of these other product line brands. So first of all, a company decides what type of product line they're going to have. So our basic decision is called manufacturer versus private label. So Great Value is an example of a private label. Who owns the Great Value brand? It's a private label for who? For Walmart, right? So you can't go to Target and find Great Value, right? Great Value is a Walmart private label brand, right? Can you think of another Walmart private label brand? Sam's Choice, perfect, right, great. Now, do any of you belong to Sam's Club? Any of you belong to Sam's? Do you ever see Sam's Choice at Sam's Club? I never have, but I have had students in the past say that their Sam's Club sells Sam's Choice soda. And like, are you sure? Because I've never ever seen that here. But it could be, right? Because Sam's Club and Walmart are from the same corporate umbrella. So it's possible to say, to share those private labels in between other components within that corporate umbrella, but it's not typical. Okay. Can any of you think of a private brand for Target? Can you think of a private brand that Target has? Do they really? So essential everyday, I think, is like a, I'm quick looking it up, just because I thought essential everyday was actually owned by, in the grocery store, Up and Up, yeah, Cat and Jack, yeah. Now here's the deal, the fact that it took so long to think of a Target private label, everyone knew, everyone knew Walmart. You don't even need to shop at Walmart and you know Walmart's brands, which just tells you how effective they are, even though they are private brands, right? How effective they are at communicating them, right? So private label brands are sold only by the company that owns that brand. Manufacturer brands like Dawn, right? So Dawn's a manufacturer brand of Procter & Gamble, is sold everywhere. So Dawn is sold at Walmart, Dawn is sold at Target, Dawn is sold everywhere, Quick Trip, right? So manufacturer versus private label. So a company decides, right, are we going to do a private label brand, or are we only going to sell manufacturer brands? What do you think might be some of the benefits of doing a private label brand? Target, Up and Up. Walmart, Great Value. Yeah, it offers typically a lower cost, a cheaper option. Yeah, so what usually happens, and so quality is dependent on who do you think manufactures Great Value? And sometimes you can find the research on it. Yeah, so a lot of times what happens is Procter & Gamble might do some of the manufacturing for private labeling, right? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so, and there might be different grades. I used to work, it's Lakeside Food at the time, but when I graduated from high school, I worked at, used to be Career Canning, but I think now it's Lakeside Food in Belgium, Wisconsin. And just got out of high school, I had moved in with my aunt. I was getting ready to go to the UW system. And so they needed some help for a couple of weeks in their quality control department, meaning they were canners. So big trucks of, dump trucks of beans would come in from the field. And so I was the gate person. So you would go in and you grab like 5 beans from this truck, right? So you pick up 5 beans from the truck, somewhere within the truck, and then the truck would weigh through whatever code it would be. And then I'd have to take these 5 beans and measure them, cut them open, see what the inside looked like, and kind of do this little report quick. And then dependent on what went through the product, right? So all of it was processed. So what would happen is that this particular manufacturer did private label and manufacturer brand beans. So all the beans came from the same field. But what would differentiate them is, the beans that were smaller in size would go to certain lines. Or if it's, the bean was 4 inches and they cut it, or 5 inches and they cut it into 2 inch and 2 inch, and then there's an inch left over. Like some of the the manufacturer brands would have more unity of sizing, but it was all still the same bean. Versus, so all from the same plant, just a matter of different packaging and sometimes different specifications. So sometimes it could be that, oh, yep, the sizes are different, or sometimes not. Like sometimes in laundry detergent's laundry detergent, and it's just a matter of packaging. And so you're spending less on packaging, less on marketing, so therefore they're able to sell it at a lesser price because they're not spending the money that a manufacturer is. Why would a Procter & Gamble want to sell a competitor? Why would they want to manufacture? Why would Procter & Gamble want to manufacture laundry detergent for private labeling? Where's the benefit for them? What do you think? Yeah, I mean, what it is they're still covering their operating costs, right? That's business. So they're still getting money for that. They're selling it at a profit. And then again, they don't have, then they're going to market to their brand as well. But yeah, absolutely. And it broadens your customer base. It lessens the risk factor. In a business that is highly competitive, right? Laundry detergent is highly competitive. In a business that's highly competitive, the more quantity you can do, right, the more your economies of scale. Have you heard the term before, economies of scale or economies of scope? You heard that term before in your other classes? Economies of scale or economies of scope is very important in something, that's highly competitive. So when I have economies of scale, that means I am producing in a high amount and I'm very efficient, right? So that means I've got my production that's set, because I'm doing it in such a high amount, that means I'm getting the best price on my packing materials. I'm getting the best price on trucking. I'm getting the best, because I'm able to fill a truck full, maybe. So I've got all of my costs are at the most efficient that they can be because I've got this really high quantity. I have high economies of scale. So if all of a sudden my production is cut, well, guess what? My lines are still running. My trucks are maybe still going, but maybe they're not full anymore, so now I've lost efficiency. And if I've got people standing around, and because I'm not producing as much as I can, or I need, I could produce more, I'm not running at high efficiency. So we look at, especially product lines that need that high economies of scale or high economies of scope, and we can kind of come back and look at those manufacturers. So those will determine, there's not going to be a tremendous amount of difference in quality on some of those because they're being produced by the manufacturers. And benefit is, Dawn is Dawn. Dawn is, one of the most valuable brands that are out there. Right? They do a great job of positioning themselves, and they definitely have the longevity. So that is one of our basic branding. Okay, I will do that. Thank you. Individual versus family branding. So, for example, if we have individual brands, each one has a different name. So if we're looking at individual brands, Tide, Draft, Gain, those are individual brands. Okay? A family brand is when we use the same name as parts of the product. So an example of how Procter & Gamble family brands Tide, right? How many versions of Tide are there? And yeah, I don't need the specific numbers. I don't know exactly, but right. So what are some of the versions of Tide? Let's just put up. What are some of the versions of Tide? Is there really 26, or is that just a guess? Did you look that up? Not a clue. I don't have a clue either. And just because they come up and and now, hopefully not literally. Anyway, yeah, so tie free and clear, right? Just like we're showing. We have our basic tie. We have, yeah, so to make even more. So then we have, yeah, we have Tide Mountain Fresh. We have Tide with Downy. We have Tide with Bleach. We have Tide Oxy. We have Tide, there's more. Rain Fresh. We have Tide with, and then, yeah, so you have all these different, so there's 15 of those different things. And then they have Todd's Powder Liquid. Yeah, hygienically, thank you, that's one. Yeah, so Tide, so we can have all of, it can be very deep product line, or product brand that goes in. Now, to make it even more complex in terms of branding, we have the concept of co-branding. And co-branding is just like it sounds. You're taking two or more brands and putting them together. So an example of co-branding would be Tide with Febreze. Febreze in itself is a brand. So taking Tide and putting Febreze with it is a co-brand. Can you think of another? Yes, Febreze has been, Procter & Gamble has been working hard at co-branding Febreze. They've been spending a lot of product development dollars with Febreze lately. What would be, what's another example of co-branding, right? So you have two products and they're both being used in one. Dorito, what's Locos? Yes, the Taco Bell Doritos. The Dorito tacos. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Have you ever heard the Dorito taco story? Yes, Triscuits, another example. Okay, we're doing well on time. I'll tell you the Dorito taco story. I used the Dorito Taco Bell story as part of my corporate strategy because it's an example of a cooperative partnership that we talk about. So when two companies decide to work together, it's kind of like co-branding, right? They're working together. So Frito-Lay, odor of Doritos, Taco Bell, long time ago, decided they wanted to expand, right? So as part of their market strategy, they wanted to develop a new product, and they wanted it to be a Dorito taco shell that they could use in the stores. So, Frito-Lay, Taco Bell, talking together, good for both parties, right? It's good for Doritos. It gives them another outlet for Doritos. It kind of opens up and expands the market, the concept. Good for Taco Bell because it's totally different than anything another restaurant, another fast food has done. So they start to work together on this new product called a Dorito taco shell. Any ideas on how long it took for them to actually do this? To develop a new product called the Dorito taco. Okay, you are such a pessimist. It was supposed to take 6 months. And it took 18 months. Right, 3 times. Yeah, really long. It was supposed to be 6. It ended up taking 18 months. Right? Because you have to remember now, you've got two separate companies. You've got Frito-Lay coming, and you've got Taco Bell coming at it. So they come together, they develop this taco shell, and Frito-Lay is like, yes, it is good to go. It has the crispness of a Dorito, and we're good with the product. And then Taco Bell's like, no go, because when they actually packaged and shipped them, they all broke because they were too thin. So Yes for Frito-Lay, no for Taco Bell. Go back to the drawing board, work on it again, okay? Come up with another version and, get it to Taco Bell. Taco Bell's, yes, this is good to go. And Frito-Lay's like, no, it's too thick. It doesn't have that crunch. It doesn't have the same texture. No, it's too far away. Yeah. So so they were back and forth because Frito-Lay wanted to hold the integrity of the product. Taco Bell had to have something that they could actually ship and not have it break. So it took 18 months, finally worked, and yeah, they are really good. Kids love the Dorito tacos, the regular and the ranch. And now they've expanded out into what's the Mexican chip that's really hot? Takis? Is that how it's pronounced? Takis? Takis? How do you pronounce that? Takis? Yes, that's a type of Taco Bell taco. Dorito. Yeah, so now it's actually gone into, I think, Old El Paso. Is the grocery arm. Yes, spicy one. Yeah, so now Old El Paso's entered into the mix because they're the grocery line component of the Dorito taco. So expand it out, right? So these things can go into many, many different directions. It was very successful, right? So that's an example of working together. It would be an example of co-branding with Old El Paso and Dorito, right? The Dorito taco. It doesn't always have to be so resource intensive as the Dorito taco. We can have branding strategy that's fairly straightforward. It's as much legality as anything, and that's called brand licensing. So brand licensing, an example of that would be, like here we have General Mills cereal, right? So General Mills makes cereal, and they have licensed Star Wars to develop this Star Wars type cereal, right? The Mandalorian. So Star Wars has nothing to do with the cereal. Yeah, exactly. Brand licensed video games, all that. Great. Now, I don't know if Star Wars played a role in actually developing the cereal. I'm sure they had some type of thought process, but in reality, what it is General Mills just probably gave lots of dollars in terms of that licensing agreement over to Star Wars. And who owns Star Wars now? Is it Disney? Disney owns Star Wars. It used to be George Lucas, but then I think it's Disney now. Yeah. So Disney got money from General Mills, right, to allow them to use Star Wars. Can you think of another brand licensing? Another brand licensing? Oh, you're right. Yeah, Wheaties. Wheaties would pay whoever's on the front of their box as a spokesperson, right? And because they're usually successful athletes, right? That is a brand, right? So successful athletes, their name is their brand, their persona is their brand. They have brand consultants that tell them what to do, how to act. They don't always listen, but yeah. McDonald's and Monopoly, that's a great example. Yeah, so the Monopoly game at McDonald's. Yeah.
There was a picture that I saw the other day of a brand over in the UK, I believe it was, that just found people that share the same name as famous people and use that on their posters. Like Michael Jordan enjoys our product, and had a little asterisk. Like Michael Jordan is just a guy that lives over in New Hampshire there, but.
Oh, that's kind of very creative. And really, if it's their real name, I wonder if like the Michael Jordan Enterprise, like their lawyers sent a letter to them saying, hey, watch the boundaries on that. Yeah, one of the big things with licensing is yeah, lawyers are involved on this case, and there's lots of, T's to cross and I's to dot to make sure we're doing well. Everyone's having issues today. I was having issues today with typing too. I opted to not answer any emails this afternoon, which will come back to bite me, but yeah. Brand loyalty. There's 3 levels or 3 degrees of what we consider brand loyalty: brand recognition, brand preference, and brand insistence. So most companies have brand recognition, right? You guys all saw, you knew General Mills, you knew KFC. That doesn't mean you necessarily like KFC. It doesn't necessarily mean you like Heinz, but you knew what it was. That's called brand recognition, and that's a degree. Just having the fact that people recognize your brand is good. However, in marketing terms, we prefer brand preference, and to top the cake is brand insistence. Doesn't happen very often, but it's there. So it just as it sounds, brand preference is, if you had a choice, you would, prefer to, Pepsi or Coke, right? Maybe your preference is, Coke. So if you have the choice of the 2, you're always going to choose Coke. But if you go out and, there's only Pepsi, you'll still drink it, right? You won't say, no, I'm not going to have anything, just give me water. Right? So preference is there, it's good. But brand insistence is exactly that, brand insistence, meaning it's not offered, it's not there, right? Yeah. So, okay, so yeah, we all have, and that's great, because I was going to just ask, can you think of a brand that you have preference? So Scott's saying type of cream cheese. What type of brand is Philadelphia cream cheese? Manufacturer or private label? Okay. The fact that there's brand preference typically is with the manufacturer brand, right? So Philadelphia cream cheese. So an example of private label cream cheese would be Kroger or Great Value cream cheese, right? So it's cream cheese, that's just the brand. Yes, Android over Apple. Yeah, so, and that's why I have Apple there. Yeah, a lot of phones, right? Because it's not just a phone, you have all of the other stuff that goes with it. Yeah, a lot of times Apple, Android, brand insistence, brand preference. Yeah, there's a lot of times I like the manufacturer brand more or I like the private label brand versus the manufacturer. Yes, yeah, great examples, certain types of maximum cheese. Yeah, those are great examples. And what we're looking at is, again, we try to buy that preference or insistence, hard to do because there's so many choices that we have. But yeah. Sometimes, so Old Dutch is actually a manufacturer's brand that's copying Dorito. So it's a manufacturer of a manufacturer's brand, which just shows how complicated and competitive our markets are. There is a concept of brand equity. We're not going to go into it in this class, but it is, we can actually compute on our balance sheet in finance the concept of brand value and brand equity. And it has to do with looking at kind of 4 stages and different sets, but it's part of that goodwill type intangible component of the balance sheet. So there it is, and that's why it seems like we spend a lot of time on brand value, but it does correlate to stronger sales in most cases, positioning within the marketplace. This is old, but again, I just wanted to it's just kind of interesting. I could use it with this textbook yet, and that worry about publication loss. So, but yes, it's old. So in 2012, the number one ranked brand was Apple. Number two, IBM. That has since changed. If you look out over this list, what's missing, or what do you think would be way different today? 11 years later from this, in terms of brand ranking. This is global, so yeah, so you'll see like China Mobile in there. I think McDonald's will be down. Yeah, Amazon's gonna be much higher. In fact, Amazon right now is number one. Amazon and Apple and Google kind of they all switch. Yeah, Marvel, definitely down. In fact, I'm still surprised it was as high as it was in 2012. Yeah, like some of these, again, because they're global brands, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard, yeah, I'm not international enough, but yeah, so top global brands. So, Ian, do you have the 2023 ranking or 2022? Is it showing Amazon as number one?
I don't have a ranking, but I just know that China's construction started making a bunch of like ghost cities that nobody went to, and
Really?
yeah,
They
and
were like a fraud? Oh
yeah,
my God.
like a huge like this massive project to like get, because Beijing is so overpopulated, they wanted to get a bunch of people out, but there was like no reason to do it. It's like, and people who bought their houses ahead of time are still waiting for them and still have to pay rent on them. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is interesting. I'll have to look that up, just because that might be a good story. So I always like to find stories. Thank you. Okay, so I wonder what I used. I don't remember the source that I used that showed Amazon moving into number one. I'll have to look. So we're showing Amazon or Apple as one, and then is Google number two then if Amazon's three in what you guys are seeing? Oh, Microsoft. Oh. I'll have to take a look. I'm glad you guys did that because I'm gonna have to take a look. Now, there's different rankings depending on, like this is, oh gosh, I'm not even sure who this source is because it's actually from the publisher. But yeah, there's, just like there's different investment companies, there's different brand ranking companies. I'll have to, and they all have their own little formula. So, oh, great, thank you for the information. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting, right? So, so how do brands become valuable? We differentiate, right? How do we make our products different than others? How do we set them apart? How do we position? How do we communicate that? And then relative position, right? Just like we did with that perceptual map, right? How are we relative to the company, right? So our advantages of branding, and we already talked about a brand new loyalty. So homework for week 8, right? With the company that you chose, outline one of their brands and how they differentiated it from the competitors, how they kind of set themselves apart in that respect. So that's your homework for this component. We're going to look at new product development, right? So we have our product life cycle, introductory growth, maturity, decline. I do not like to use product development as a stage because, Again, most products never come to fruition. However, that doesn't mean that it's not important. So let's talk about new products. There's different methods of growth in today's world. So most growth, firm growth, comes from mergers, acquisitions, or cooperative strategies. That is considered more external, right? So if I am Google, actually, if I am Microsoft, and I want to come up with new software, new offerings, they can do it internally. But a lot of times what they do is they actually just purchase it from someone else, right? The concept of Excel was purchased. It was bought and then developed into Excel. Yes, did they, Activision? So what it is they could develop it internally, but in most cases, especially companies that have a strong balance sheet, that have the ability to make capital acquisitions, do so. So they do those acquisitions as a means of growth, or the other opportunities to use cooperative strategies, like the example I gave with Taco Bell and Frito-Lay for the Dorito taco. You take and work together with someone else to develop it. For example, Hulu came about as a cooperative partnership, actually a joint venture between NBC, ABC, and Universal Studios. So they came together and said, okay, we, each of us could try to work on and get into the streaming market, right? They recognized that this was a trend that was occurring, was here to stay. So they said we could do this all individually, or guess what? We could come together, even though we're competitors, we can come together and we can each put some resources in, and they did, and they developed Hulu. That's how Hulu got developed. So mergers, acquisitions, cooperative strategies is a method of growth. The other method of growth is what we call internal growth, right? So it's important, but it's highly risky, right? New products, our process is very intensive in terms of resources, and it's very expensive. And the vast majority of new products in the product development process never get to the point of commercialization. Yeah, just never happens. So that's why we're seeing in the business world so many more mergers, acquisitions, and cooperative strategies, because something's already there. So I know exactly, if I am looking at an acquisition, I know what I'm going to pay. I, for the most part, should know, because of due diligence, what I'm going to get. It's a known factor. It's already out there. It's already commercialized. However, companies like 3M, right? 3M does, I think, look up, open up a tab. How many patents does 3M apply for in a year? I don't know, I think it's something like 10,000, but I could be wrong. How many patents does 3M apply for in a year, on average? Anyone got it with good data? And I say 3M because part of 3M's cooperative, or part of their competitive advantage is they're really good at research and development. That's how they differentiate themselves from their competition. They're just really, really good at that. 2,000, okay, so 2,000 on average. I mean, that's a lot, right? I mean, that's a lot of patents to go through on average per year. You know, as far as, you know, how can you bring that many new products in 21? Okay, so thank you. So a couple thousand. Remember 2,000, a ton. Think of a ton. So here's the process for new product development, right? You come up with an idea, You have a screening process, evaluation process, develop, test, mark, commercialization. So it's not all that different than the process of our market research, right? So in our market research, we kind of defined a problem. Well, in this case, we're creating ideas, right? So create an idea. So let's put this kind of research into practice. Right? So this is the last thing that we're doing for tonight. Okay, so let's see, we've got, I'm going to narrow the field, okay, and I'm going to give you the trend of healthier eating, right? So we talked about the keto friendly, but we're not doing that. We're looking at the trend of healthy eating, right? So that's one of our trends. We consider that a macro trend that's happening all over the United States, right? The thought process, the behavior, the attitude, the belief of healthier eating. Whether it actually is put into process, whether we actually do it or not doesn't matter, right? Because there's data to say, yeah, we can have a trend to healthy eating, but we're actually more unhealthy as a percentage-wise. So, trend of healthy eating, that is our potential opportunity that we're looking at. So how can McDonald's come up with a new product that's going to match that trend or use that trend, right? So that's where we're going. I'm going to break you into two groups. And I want you guys to sit and kind of throw around some ideas, right? And that's exactly what we start with new product development. You come around, take a look at what's going on in the external environment, look at those opportunities, and then try to match them to the strengths you have. So we're going to start with idea generation, and then we're going to come back and throw it around a little bit. So I'm only going to put you into two groups, and I would like for you to elect someone to talk, to kind of present the idea that you've all agreed upon. So you're only going to give me one idea that you all agree upon, so you're going to have some time to kind of throw it around a little bit. So group one, Caroline, Crystal, Ian, Haley, Heather, Jade, and Tim. Group two is Angel, Angela, Chong, Nicole, Robin, and Scott. So group one, group two, elect someone to be your spokesperson and agree on one idea that we're going to shoot forward and see how far we get. So how long? 6 minutes? 6 minutes? It's not a lot of time, but I'm going to bring you back at 7:20, right? 7:20. 7 minutes? Okay. 7:21. All right, 7:21, I'll bring you back. All right, coming back.
We weren't done discussing theft of picnic
I was
tables.
not reimbursed. I took a forklift to the other side of the building and I stole a picnic table and I put it somewhere else.
I love it.
Oh,
I tried the proper
Okay.
channels first. It didn't work.
That sounds like a great conversation.
hopefully that had something to do with the eating trend. Be honest.
We were talking about the
Oh.
weather. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. It's good. I love it when you guys connect. All right, group one. What do you guys have?
All right.
Healing.
So we've got, depending, hopefully this is an acceptable answer. We have an alternative if it is not, but bring back the snack wrap. So I don't know if returning a product can count as a new product development, but snack wraps were the best. And a lot of people want them back. If you check out any of Facebook and look at the advertisements, there's always a comment that says back snack wrap. And if they do need to tweak it to make it more new and more healthy, we can look at options such as switching out the wrap itself for like alternative flours or like a lettuce wrap, things of that nature.
Yeah.
As well as different fillings. If we wanted to truly branch out, we could look at like alternatives like beans or rice and similar.
Yes. So, in terms of excessive, or in terms of it being okay, yeah, because actually, that's a good thought process. You're right. It's not necessarily a new product, unless you change something and then it does become a new product. But yeah, recognizing the fact, um, that, yeah, there's demand out there for a resurgence or reintroduction of something that worked before, actually should make it easier and should take the risk away from it, right? Because they've already, do you know why they stopped making the snack wrap? Were you able to find anything on that regard? I know you didn't have a ton of time.
I believe it was to personally spite me because I liked them, but I'm not actually sure. I will check and see though. If I didn't know.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just what McDonald's does. They whenever something becomes successful that's new, they take it away.
The internet says lack of demand and it was complicated to make, which I don't believe.
But did you guys also notice, like, they took the salads out, the parfaits, like pretty much all their healthier options, they just pulled them.
Healthy food is expensive. It rots, and then you got to replace it more often.
Also,
but okay.
this is McDonald's we're talking about. This is the wrong place to look for healthy food.
Yes, but you know what? Okay, what's McDonald's strengths? What's their core competencies? Let's come back to there. What's their strength?
Coke.
Consistency.
Okay, the value. Okay, they do. Who is it that told me? They have a really good water purification process, and that's why their soda tends to taste better. I don't know who told me that. If someone worked in their stores or part of that, but like, if you're to look at not product related, what does McDonald's do better than the competition?
It's quick.
Yeah, it's quick, so it's very fast. So let's back up. How does a company get to be fast? What's
Easy
the
menu.
root cause?
Easy cooking.
Easy menu, yeah.
Same items that can be used in multiple options.
Okay, what else? Think of their process. Come back to process.
Consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And just the layout of the line of
Yep.
getting from A to B.
Yeah, I mean, they know what they're doing, right? And the only reason I can say that with any amount of confidence is the financial results of McDonald's in terms of their inventory is unrivaled. Their inventory turnover is 1 day. It is crazy how fast their inventory turns. They are phenomenally good at managing what's coming in and what's going out, in terms of turnover. So that tells me that operationally, they have to have it pretty much together. Now, some of that is automation. So, think, even if you haven't gone to McDonald's for years, right? They are ahead in terms of automation. The fact that, they don't stand there and fill up the sodas anymore, right? Everything, as soon as you place the order, it just moves. The software creates it, that soda's there. The hardest part is, getting the labor to figure out to put the cup on and what order it goes with, right? Because everything is so automated in certain lines. So what would be the problem? If you're saying, listen, the demand is there, so not buying that line, why would it be so difficult operationally? I mean, the snack wraps were chicken, right? Was it chicken that was put in there, or was it beef? It was chicken.
Yeah, I believe the snack wraps were either the fried chicken or the grilled chicken.
Okay. Do they use that chicken anywhere else?
in all of the chicken sandwiches. It's the same one, just
It's the
sliced.
same one as the chicken sandwich, so that shouldn't be a problem. That's a good point in an identity, but to be honest, the McChicken sandwich is pretty, my kids love their McChicken sandwich. And they love it because I'm very cheap and that's the only thing I'll buy them from there. Because they're two for $2.50. So that's probably all they know, and why they love them, but yeah. Okay, it was a fried chicken strip, but do you think you could do the chicken wrap with their McChicken patty instead? So that's some things you want to think about when we look at potential screening and evaluation, right? So that's the type of thought process that you want to go with from that idea, right? So I kind of helped you guys out a little bit, trying to get that thought process going. But so it is, you're going to what if, like what's the core of this? What's our strength? What's our weakness? And what maybe, so you guys are going to talk about that again. And some of the information here, the wrap is not used for anything else. Well, maybe you're going to, maybe you can come up with some other ideas and think about a way operationally we can make that go. All right, group 2, what did you guys have?
So we thought of like what they don't have. A lot of places are starting is like a vegetarian burger.
Okay, so like with the Boca Burger kind of thing, with
Yeah.
the veggie patty? Okay.
Instead of like that burger patty, like a vegetarian, because that's not as bad for you, that red meat.
Okay, so I believe that they should have experienced this because, and when you guys go back, take a look, but I believe in India, at the McDonald's in India, that is already the case.
Oh.
Okay, so thank you, Jake. Okay, so so Burger King has the Beyond Burger, so you're gonna partner with someone that's not Beyond Meats. So yeah, so you might be able to use some of the data there. Because they should have experience in that. It's just a matter of, they haven't brought it here yet. So maybe they already have some good, maybe who they partner with in India is an international company, and bringing it to the US would help that international company compete with Beyond and that. So that's where your thought process you're going to want to go, right? So you're going to go kind of look international and look at, because that should be the same. I guess the only thing is you would have to maybe make a disclaimer that it's on a grill that has beef. So you can't say it's, I guess, well, you have to see, do you need a dedicated grill for it? Okay, the McPlant, is that what it's called? The McPlant? The McPlant, is that what you're gonna name it? Is that your suggestion? You're gonna name it? All right, so here's your deal. I think you should stay in the same groups, if I break you out. That's what Google says. Yeah, you come up with a better word, a better one than that. That's a terrible name. Yeah, that's not a good name. Sorry, I'm very definitive on that one. That sounds like, McPlank's not a good name, not here. So what I want you to do is kind of to mull about the screening, the evaluation, how you might bring it to fruition. This is the last time I'm going to put you in groups. We'll talk generally about test marketing and commercialization because that'll apply to both. But go through how you might screen it, how you might evaluate, how you might feel, okay, this is potential problems, the potential success, something we can change, right? So let's have that discussion. We'll do that for another 6 minutes. I'll bring you back and then we'll wrap up for the night. So same groups are there. So 7:39, I will bring you back. All right, coming back. Coming back. All right. Okay. Oh, poor Haley. I think Haley kept getting kicked out. At least that's what it looked like on my end.
Our groups were mixed.
No way.
There
Yep.
was a spy.
There were spies.
There were a couple spies.
Okay. Okay.
But we helped each other.
You
They were-
made
they
it work.
They were good spies. We'll let them in.
Oh. Oh,
We turned them
technology, yeah, poor Haley's still out there. All right, okay, well, tell me what you guys got. Whoever was in group one.
Right, the snack wraps. So for snack wraps, obviously we would want to gather hard data on what the actual demand is for snack wraps, in addition to random people on Facebook and me sending letters to Ronald McDonald himself demanding the snack wrap back. We want to see what the actual demand is. We'd also want to look at, because they were considered a time-consuming process, on if there are efficient ways to cut that down, whether that means rather than someone in the store having to slice the what was the chicken select and now would have to be part of the new chicken sandwich patties, rather than them cutting it in store for the wraps, if we can move that to production and have that in the production facility where they've just got, you know, one line that's for the patties and then one line that's the patties that gets sliced. And then the other thing that we were looking at too is, because space in the store is at a premium, and so adding more wrapping and other things like that, we would want to check and see, okay, so we've got like the apple turnovers right now that has a similar proportion box. Can we alter that box to be both apple turnovers and snack wraps and have it just be either a mark or a sticker or a punch that specifies what item it is?
Yeah, yeah, definitely from a packaging side. I'm just processing through. Yeah, as part of your initial screening, yeah, I guess, yeah, you're right, just figure out, is this really a demand? Now, here's the deal, right? McDonald's has the ability to somewhat adapt to market conditions, local, right? McDonald's served a McBrat here in Green Bay for several years during the football season. Now, since COVID, everything's kind of changed as far as their strategy, but prior to that, yeah, they would bring in specialty component, like the McRib, right? They would, you know, it would be like a special 2-month type item, and then, you know, it would go away. So they have the ability to adapt. I think current market conditions now are still kind of tough in that respect in terms of just labor market. So you're right. So to make it as easy as possible to transition into the actual production. So yeah, so that's exactly what you do, right? Find out, you know, go through an initial screen. Is there enough demand to actually bring it in? So as part of your development phase, that would be like, yeah, okay, can we take the current chicken patty, cut it in half? Can they do it then in store? Can they, you know, that's all part of the development. So kind of think back to the Dorito taco story, right? That development and test marketing is what took the bulk of the time, because they kept having to, you know, they put in one thing, actually do some, you know, I'm testing in the, not in the market per se, but like in the actual Taco Bell, in the shipping, and, you know, so that development and test marketing can take quite a while. You have lots of options there, so that's where you could kind of fine tune some of that in terms of the packaging and that. Good. All right, veggie burger. All right.
So we were trying to look up like where the veggie burger is right now, and back in 2001 they were doing test areas in the U.S. in Texas, Iowa, Louisiana, and California. And then in 2022 they increased the test locations to 600 McDonald's, but it doesn't say where. But then I couldn't find anything about it being like the McPlant, what they called it, in other countries.
Yeah, I mean, I know that in India, it's been for quite a while, just because I use that as an example in my corporate strategy class when we
Okay.
look at international. Now, I don't know what they call it, to be honest. We always just call it the India Big Mac because it's just substituting a veggie burger. Um,
But I would,
the fact that, yeah,
I,
yeah, like 20 years ago, they were already looking into this idea. You know, so they already saw the macro trend that was occurring in terms of vegetarian eating.
I almost feel like it's not doing that well compared to maybe what I thought it would, because you would think that with them doing test locations back in 2021, that they would have that out already if it was doing good.
Yeah, but it is. So they have the experience with it, and you're right. They're on the cusp of market saying, okay, do we think this is going to do well? Do we not? Whatever. However, oh, McVeggie, what kind of like the same concept with the snack wrap, though. I mean, obviously they spent a tremendous amount of resources if it went out to 600 locations as part, and that would be as part of that test marketing stage yet. Because they didn't fully commercial, although, gosh, 600 locations, that's a lot to test market. So that probably went to commercialization, but just in one particular regional area, maybe, or one size of geography. But sometimes, right, things, it just may, sometimes we have to revisit an idea where things come back. Let me explain myself more. Self-scanners, right? Self-checkouts are normal everyday occurrence now, right? If we look, right, everywhere has self-checkout now, at least as an option. And in some cases, it's the only thing, right? Any idea on what retailer, really, quick check, what retailer was actually one of the first to have self-checkout? Any guesses? It was decades ago. Not Walmart. Kmart. It was Kmart. Yeah, it's part of Kmart's strategy. Couple decades ago, they started and it was very new technology. Kmart had self-checkouts, and it failed miserably. They spent a tremendous amount of money, but it was like cutting edge technology. You could, if you're in retail and that's what you do for a living, I mean, you know the trends towards less cashier. You know it's coming, right? Because it happens in small increments. So they could see the trend coming, and they jumped, and they did a big jump, and it failed miserably for them because it didn't align with the market that they had, with the customers that they had, and I don't think they executed it very well. But my point is, to you, Angela, is sometimes we get ahead of ourselves in business. So, maybe in 2001, it was cutting edge, but maybe it was really too much cutting edge. Where now back up, 20 years later, and, we have a whole different generation now, right? 20 years, it's a whole different thought process on what may or may not work. So it may work. So what we don't want to do is say, well, we tried it, and it doesn't work. Well, maybe we try it again. Yeah, it's very different now. Now, that is interesting to me in the Quick Trip. Yeah, lives are faster now, and we become more adapted to it, right? It was slow, right? I mean, think about, I mean, kind of think back, how many years ago did you start with the actual kind of being eased into self-checkout, right? I mean, just, it took a while to get it mainstream. So the chicken, I have to come back to this because the chicken nuggets, like each individual nugget has specific names. I'm not, roundabouts were in Europe when I was traveling in Europe. Took a while to get here.
Yeah, so the shapes have names. So there's was it the
Oh.
boot, the bow tie, the bell, and the circle, I believe it was, or the 4 shapes.
The ball.
The ball, sorry.
They all start with B.
Oh, which is kind of funny. So, yeah, I did not know that. So you're right. There, we get to, you get to help me out. What was it? The boot, the bell, the ball. What's the other one?
The boot, the bell, the ball, the bow tie.
Bow tie, that's it. Okay. I'll have to figure out a good story on that for my next classes. All right, chicken nugget names at McDonald's. Funny. Yeah. So once you got this, right, you kind of just continue on from there. What's good, what's bad. Maybe, kind of go out another step, take another reach out, do a little testing, do a little development, then come on back, evaluate. So you can see how this could be how, take years for this to happen because you're constantly reworking and getting new information. All right, so new product development. Okay, and there, we're done. I'm not going to do any more. We're not going to commercialize it today. All right, so our only homework was that one back here, right? That's it for homework. Homework week 8. And any questions? Any questions? I had you out for almost 2 hours without a break.
Back in like the first session or so, there was a thing where you were like, "Oh, if you go and try Liquid Death, I'll give you extra credit points."
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I did finally go and try Liquid Death. It was okay. It was water.
Any differentiating characteristics in the taste of the water?
It was definitely, you could tell that it was like a fresh spring water. But if I had, multiple brands of fresh spring water, I would probably not be able to pick it out of the lineup.
Okay.
The can looked cool though.
Yes, I know, isn't it? Okay. Did I tell you? Do you remember how many extra credit points I said I would give you?
I think I feel like it was like 300 or so.
As soon as that came out of my mouth, I was like, Faye, that's like the stupidest question you could ask at 8 o'clock at night. All right, I will go back and I will look it up. But yeah, you know what? Thank you for reminding me of that. And you know what? That is a great reminder. I'm doing the final exam right now, putting that together. And that is a great, I'm going to use that in the final exam. So thank you. Yeah, Caroline, do you feel that the Water Joe tastes different? I don't know. Has any of you tried the caffeine water, the Water Joe water? Anyone else? I'm like, oh, yeah. You like it? Yeah, I love plain water, but I'm like, oh, I don't know if I really like this. But all right, interesting. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Although I like the fact that their water bottles don't crinkle. Hey, Jade, how much did did you pay for your liquid death? Do you remember? What price point?
I want to say it was like $2.99 or something like that. It was at Quick Trip, so.
Okay. Okay, $3. I saw in the store, I think it was 2 for $4, which is like a significant price decrease. So I'll have to look, see if that's still there. All right, great. Thank you for reminding me of that. Completely forgot. Sometimes though, that still gives me nightmares. Their videos. Yeah, there you go. I will make sure if you try it. You know, I won't. I'll give you extra credit too. It wasn't the first one.
I
All
have to confess, I was joking about the extra credit thing. I just know we were talking
Did
about
I
it,
say?
and you said
What did I say? Sometimes
Well,
I don't remember.
I don't know. We were discussing it, and you were asked if anyone had tried it, and suggested if we want to go see if there is a difference or not. So, and I was like, I'm gonna try it. So,
Okay, so I didn't incentivize it.
there was no incentive.
Okay, well, you know what? For being honest, you know, I'll do some trying. I will do, and I'll post it on the discussion board as well. Let me come up with a way to actually use the information, and I'll put it in as an extra credit post. So yes, I can do that. I'm totally up for that. I love like kind of getting things a little bit interactive, and I love the fact that you're you know, going out and kind of like, oh, wait a minute, I looked at this really unusual video, you know, of hard rock, liquid death, guzzling kids, you know, as part of my marketing class. So, all right. Okay, so just that little bit of homework. Homework's kind of easy this week. Next week we have a quiz though. So just a heads up, next week is quiz and homework. And we're going to get into a little bit of math with pricing, right? So we have math next week as part of our pricing component. All right, if you have questions, stay after. If not, it is 8 o'clock and you guys can go. Online students, let me give you your 2 keywords. Online students, keyword number 1 is liquid, and keyword number 2 is death, D-E-A-T-H. So that's our keywords for our online students listening to the recording tomorrow or sometime next week. Yes. All right, great job tonight, guys. I will see you next week.